It's live. Yes, it was.
Call me to order. Start with roll call.
Jason Wertz,
Here.
Tiffany Yant. Here. Tony Bevel,
Here.
Dorian Neville,
Here.
Lisa Patterson. Here. Richard Amici.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our list is the approval of minutes. Do you have any corrections or comments?
We approved the minutes. Second.
Motion. Gotta take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Citizen comment. Next.
I understand I'm the first person, maybe add a comment.
Second,
Second.
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Second, the good one.
All right, hi, I am Camille. I've been a resident of Sherwood for 24 years. I currently occupy a home on Division Street, the corner of Park Row. And we have family, we have children, we have pets in our neighborhood. And at that intersection, going up the hill on Division, a lot of drivers start their engine and they accelerate as fast as they can. And as they're coming down the hill, there's a stop sign right at the bottom of Division. And a lot of times people do California stops or literally ignore it and fly right through it. So I'm here tonight because my mailbox has now been hit twice. And there's been car debris left this last time. And then this last time, my mailbox literally came off and it's a pretty heavy steel mailbox. So I'll be replacing my post here very soon. I'm asking, I know that Division Street has added some speed bumps at the top of the hill. I would love to have something that slows vehicles down in our neighborhood. So that's my ask tonight, that we can help resolve my mailbox not getting hit, children staying safe, pets being safe, and people obeying the stop sign at the bottom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, on to business. So the first item on the list there is chair, vice chair nominations. Looking at the minutes, it looks like we just, last time this system got kicked to this meeting.
Yes.
Want to press.
I think we have waited for you.
Because someone else wanted to not nominate themselves. or-
Here you stand tall.
Okay, well, I'm willing to do it, but I'm also willing to step down if someone else. did it. We need like a formal motion, just some clear nominating. How does this work?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I move we nominate Jason Hurst for the chair position.
A second.
Okay, and then we'll vote on that and then do vice chair after
Yeah, if no one else wants to nominate anyone else. No, okay, easy vote.
that. They want to discuss. Or my feelings.
Fine job.
All right, we'll think about it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yep, get the- All right, so vice chair. Someone, you want to do it again?
I'll do it again if nobody else wants to do it.
Anybody want the experience? Okay. I'll nominate Tiffany.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do you want to discuss? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
All right, so we got a few new traffic safety requests. We're gonna start with 2023-006. The request for speed bump installation of this intersection of Southwest Division Street and Park Avenue. This is the one that our citizen comment just spoke on, so.
I can start off with kind of the checklist of what I'm gonna do here on my end with the engineering department. I'm gonna search obviously previous records to see if we had any interpretations, decisions, or stop signs that existed, because it's three-way and only two stop signs there. I'll look at the site distance to see if there's any no parking or site distance triangle issues that would warrant either no parking signs or the police to perhaps enforce parking within 20 feet of a stop sign that would help. We have looked into speed cushions on the slopes. I think the slope going up that hill is over 10%. It's similar to Pine Street, and the fire department is pretty adamant about not having speed cushions on steep slopes, and we are too, because they turn into somewhat of a kind of a jump for the vehicles and become dangerous. We've had issues with some of our electeds on the speed cushions that did get installed up on Division Street, so I think combined with the steep slopes and then the fire department alone, I think that would be difficult to get the speed cushions there. I've always had a note to check into the stop sign, if there was ever a stop sign on the approach coming off Main Street. I doubt that it would meet MUTCD stop sign warrant analysis, but the committee could always recommend that the city, spend probably around $2,000 to get a traffic consultant to go through the checklist of stop sign warrants. It'd probably come down to interpretation, which I don't think it would meet warrants, but I could see a stop sign going in. That's really about it. That's kind of my response now. We can keep this on here and I can let you know the results of my investigation, as well as the police will probably be able to comment on enforcement as well.
So our piece of this for you all is that, in speaking, as you all know, sorry, Chris isn't able to make it today. He's working Street of Dreams, with traffic people over there. Chris Pierce, Officer Pierce, traffic officer, has done some analysis at this location. We as a police department are in alignment with Jason and engineering department in regards to the fact that at this location, this T location, you have a stop sign that's on Park Road Avenue. You also have a stop sign that's on Division. But on Division, it's a stop sign only going the one way. There's not a stop sign the other. Our feeling, as Jason's saying, is that it would be effective to place another stop sign on Division there at that T intersection to make it a three-way stop. We feel that will also help to alleviate, as our speaker said today, the aspect of people that are on Division and they're cutting the corner and on the wrong side of the road when they cut off of Division and onto Park Roadway. So we think that the stop sign will be a good safety measure for reducing the speeds a little bit on Division, as well as the corner cutting. And then on top of that, as we all know, we've been working with other cases on Division and Pine. And so we've had the speed carts out on Pine as well. And so we can continue to adjust those onto the slope as well to kind of deal with the traffic. And Officer Pierce has been working traffic enforcement on Division and Pine, et cetera, and the stop sign, rolling of stop signs there. He did spend time at this location observing it and did notice standard rolling of stop signs that we see throughout the city. And so it's not what we would say enhanced beyond other spots, but that doesn't mean it doesn't need attention. But it would go into the rotation of attention that we can spend on all the different locations. So our primary advice on this is the additional stop sign.
And just to clarify that the new stop signs are the city council's decision, unless there's a clear warrant, and typically warrants are only going to be uncontrolled adding stop signs on one of the streets. So I don't know if you've done any resolutions for these stop signs in a while, but that's one thing we'll follow up with our city manager and leadership staff to see if that at what the process is for requesting these stop signs and what goes with that.
I have a question. I kind of saw the map on your laptop. And I was trying to see, it looks like there's sidewalk only on one side of Park, and that might be why. And then with that tight corner, is there any way to like be able to create a buffer space if there are people or pets in the roadway that are walking, or is there any if that's a concern, like I said, I just was looking at your map and it looked like that corner that seemed like where the stop sign is, it's, there's no sidewalk or any shoulder really there. And so if that's something that we can look into potentially, like adding some vertical protection on the shoulder for people, even if it's just at that location.
We could pull up the map at the next meeting, and I don't know if I could go by there today for a meeting to see if I could see where, if there's any no parking sign delineated or on the opposite side, that would help. And obviously signs cost money and you don't want signs everywhere, but we can look at that. And then if people are parking on the Park Road side closer to the stop sign, which happens a lot too, that then makes that intersection really not function well. So it's possible we could just not get into the Park Row issues, but just do a couple of signs, maybe some curb paint, tighten it up in there, leave the stop sign decision to the council, and then maybe kind of a staged approach to help out in this area. But I had issues myself with when the vehicles are parked in that intersection, it being hard to navigate it because the intent was to not have the stop sign so people could free flow through over to Amendment Street. So that's something we can look at, the site distance and stuff.
I can think of one time where we made a decision to have a stop sign, on the east end of town. Can't remember that neighborhood. There was a T intersection. And a stop sign went in, and I don't know what happened on the city
I
side.
don't get into too much on those ones, but I think here we could even just ask our city council if we had to do a resolution and not do a warrants analysis. That would at least be something for us being engineers, they want to have a firm decision and to not have the warrants to put the stop sign in, and we then don't have anything to support the recommendation. So that would be my hope with the city council. We don't have obvious stop sign warrants would be able to, or the city manager, if there's some authority there, just to go, they agree, put it in. It might be obvious to them as well.
Honestly, I drove this intersection this weekend just to take a look at myself, and I encountered exactly what was described. Coming from Main Street, I turned right and having the right of way with no stop sign. I went to turn left on Park and a car just came right in front of me, turning left to go up the hill. So something to slow the intersection. I think a stop sign sounds like a great idea. It seems weird that mailboxes would get tagged with as far up from the intersection as they are, but I guess, you know, I can see how that happens if someone needs to make a wide turn with vehicles coming down. And then the only other thing I wanted to add is people are going to put their foot on the gas to go up the hill. So it's, you know, it's going to be loud, and there might not be much to stop that, but I guess if they stop before heading up, that might kind of govern that a little. So I would think a stop sign would be a very appropriate decision. And then also the reason I think the person turned without looking in front of me is because there was a car parked on Park Row right up against that stop sign. So, and I turned left there, and it was a very narrow spot to turn into. So a no parking sign backing people away from that stop sign makes sense too.
You guys want to make a motion for something for us to do on this, or?
I personally, I would support like a little bit more. I don't know, I'm an engineer, so kind of leaning towards what you say, where it's hard for me to make a decision on something like this without data. I don't don't really like the idea of putting in stop signs that don't meet warrants because it further encourages the rolling stop that is so often a problem. So if, for example, if this intersection, the traffic counts showed you that 90% of the traffic movement is taking that movement that has no stop sign, then the stop signs are correctly placed and you put a stop sign there and you're only gonna see more and more non-compliance with it's gonna cause more issues.
Yes, that
So,
makes it more confusing to think that the stream of traffic's now suddenly gonna stop. And then roll stop, and it would actually become more confusing to have that.
yeah, so it's hard for me to like support that without more information. But at the same time, like I've seen situations before in the past where warrants were not met and the political folks decided to put stop signs in anyways, and everyone loved it. So I can see situations where that makes sense, but I don't have a good understanding of what kind, like the amount of traffic that's going up and down Division. As opposed to taking that corner, going between Willamette and Main to, I would have a hard time supporting a motion to put a stop sign in today without some more information to back that up.
I'll follow up with the police and our engineering staff and public works staff about maybe we can see what we can do about the parking right off of the Park Road section, and if we can eliminate any issues of people parking there, maybe that kind of helps improve the situation a bit. So we go from there.
A warrant to put up no parking signs for that sort of thing.
Well, there's this 20 feet within a stop sign. There's
So it should already be, yeah.
There's areas where that's hard to enforce, like in, Northwest 23rd, downtown, Old Town, where people want to park right up against the stop sign because it's an extra spot, but these areas, it's probably something we could enforce with, but signs 20 feet away, just to, there, I think the curb is painted.
And it seems the traffic problem there is originating from Park Road, from people making that left there. That's
And I've seen us go out and just paint curbs when we see something obvious like that. So if the curb's not painted and there's some, I'll have our public works director drive by too, and we can just check it out. Maybe there's something to do right away that help a tiny bit. And go from there.
The other thing that that I might recommend that you look at, staff look at is it's kind of two separate issues in my mind. There's the intersection and then there's the Division Street and the mailbox is getting hit multiple times. When you look at the street from the intersection, looking up Division, the street narrows. And it shifts from, if you were to not pay attention, it shifts from, you would run right into those mailboxes, you have to shift over. So maybe,
Check the roadside design guide and like.
maybe there's like a throw a stripe in there or something like that to kind of paper people over, but it's,
raised bump. Talking the little round circle bumps.
yeah, it's just, and then the other thing is, it's an unimproved street, so. Even if you did that, when you neck down, I don't think it's not very wide. Which should lend itself to people driving slower, but
I think the other thing we said from police to add outside of additional data work. We as police tend to notice higher accident issues when we have a three-way intersection like this where two have stop signs and one doesn't. And we would actually say kind of the opposite in that for those that are on Park Road coming up to their stop sign. And they're turning on to Division, if they're making a left-hand turn to go up Division. You somewhat have an expectation that you see there's already one stop sign for people coming down Division, but the other side doesn't. So it produces that mindset for them to come out and get T-boned from someone that's traveling up Division. So just to clarify, outside of additional data work, police department's position is that we see that additional stop sign is also an accident reducer. So.
Just a comment as like a homeowner myself, and this is a homeowner discretion thing, not a recommendation, but with the way the road is wide on the curve, just past the stop sign. It leads cars right into these three posts. It might behoove homeowners to look at moving those posts a little bit farther back, a couple of feet farther in. We probably eliminate a lot of those things getting hit. That doesn't address any of the speed problems or anything like that, but there's a lot of just flat space right there. If those posts were farther in, you'd still be all the mail trucks would still be able to deliver mail, but it would give a lot more buffer the way that road just suddenly narrows around that green space. That's, it's not a recommendation, it's just a thought, really, being a homeowner myself.
Anybody wanna make a motion? More questions?
Well, Jason, are you gonna look into painting and parking signs as the first step?
I've got enough information where to get you guys comfortable where you may want to make a motion for a stop sign too, because the end's point there at the end made me think it might be in our best interest to, if we agree to recommend a stop sign without paying a consultant to do extensive study, because it's just gonna come down to them going to the police and interviewing them, and that being the deciding factor. So it might be better just to go straight to the resolution, put the stop sign out or not. So,
And that was the point I was making from my personal experience driving. There's that scenario where the person turning left were right out in front of me and I knew I had the right of way, but they maybe assumed they did, thinking I would be coming to a stop. So it's like I experienced that real life scenario of
You coming off Park Road.
no, I was coming Main Street. I turned right on Division. I went to turn left on Park Road and a car pulled in front of me. When I had every right to go.
Are there signs on the stop sign, the existing stop sign saying that oncoming traffic doesn't stop?
no, but and that would be difficult to do for this intersection, because you can't do the whole way, can't do the three. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where now I'm going back to the stop sign now. It's
Mhm.
of the setup and then the configuration where it skews over and narrows going up the hill. If it were all one, this big swath up the hill and there were no skew or jog in the road, it would be a little bit different, but.
We also throw from the police side onto the table, just from our speaker's perspective of speed on Division and while a stop sign shouldn't necessarily be the solve for speed. It does have that byproduct assistance to that in a lot of regards. And so I think there was some comment in regards to of us talking about how an additional stop sign can produce additional rolling of stop signs. That is true.
But the speed up the hill through a changing cross section from super wide to this narrow without any control there, I could see the stop sign not being a speed reduction, it's more of a safety check. Like, hey, heads up, you're about to go into a different section style road.
So we feel that. Well, yes, there's always a pro and a con to, the rolling of a stop sign or not. To the speaker's point, to have that stop sign and the change in the road narrowing, et cetera. We would say that that's a benefit, that pro of having the stop sign outweighs the aspect of those that are going to slightly roll that stop sign. Always pros and cons, right?
I'll move to have Jason look into the parking right at Park Row stop sign and then looking into the data and justification of adding a stop sign for us to potentially vote on next meeting. The full, comprehensive enough motion.
When you say data, you want to clarify whether he's doing that with resources available, not going out.
Yeah, more checking in with
I got what you're saying.
public works and police and.
I'll do my best to do my own little mini investigation and get us to a point where we can make a decision without spending, money on that. Sorry, Bob.
Discussion. Take a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Our next one is 2023-007. Request for additional parking areas on Smith Avenue between Meineke and Bittner. Or only allowing parking on one side of the street for better traffic flow.
So, we can both have stuff on this. From the police department side, we can say that, for this complaint, it's accurate in regards to the road is narrow, on Bittner. And that we do agree with it in that eliminating parking on the one side does help to be able to make traffic flow through there a little more palatable, like we have in a lot of other neighborhoods that with the narrow roads with residentials. Yeah, we don't see any disagreement with it.
I will say, I did talk to our engineering technician because this has come up before. And this is a good segue into why we're tracking these escapes files. It's gone to the previous city manager as a request for no parking signs on the side. And I don't know the exact reason why they never got put up. And I don't know if it was even the previous city manager before or the similar request went, but I just want to double check what the city's response was for not putting those up and if it was a neighborhood issue or were we not able to get by off from the fire department because it's pretty close and with our current TSP that does allow parking on both sides for neighborhood sections, but I don't know if it's a critical route or if there are fire hydrants or whatnot, or maybe it assumed there was an emergency access to the highway. Before you guys, I perfectly can make a recommendation to put in a parking sign up. I think that's perfectly fine now. I just wanted, from my perspective, I want to double check why they are not. Okay.
You guys know if it's busy parking wise, like is it regularly used both sides?
It used to be during when the high school was over in that area. But now without the high school, I don't know. Because it's right near the high school or the old high school. So during football games, it was like people parked on both sides and that was the issue, but I don't know about over the past few years.
So I drove this one too. I'm excited about it, learning these things. And I drove through it and on the north side of the street, it was, pretty much full with cars, a lot of people parked there. On the south side, there was only two. And it was narrow getting through there. I turned around and there's an intersection with cobblestones. I'm not sure if that's Bittner or whatnot, but I turned around at that intersection and came back and a car had just turned and one of us had to move over to let one through because of the two cars. They weren't parked super close to the stop sign at Meineke or anything. They were, plenty spaced out. But it did squeeze and narrow to one lane when there was cars on both sides. I live on a street where we have no parking across the street and, I have some neighbors who regularly do park under that, for quick in and out stuff. And it's like, you can see the congestion when it gets, people on both sides. So I get the concern. If it's something where it's slated where it should have, or it's recommended that it should have a no parking on one half and it's not going to mess up the neighborhood parking spot situation, I think that makes plenty of sense for a long, thin road like that without any turnoffs on it.
Additional thing we would put there, and this isn't really a police thing, but just something for you to make note of. And I'm glad you went and drove too, because I did the same thing. But you'll notice that for the residents on this is the other piece to look at this, is that when you eliminate that parking on the one side, or you do cause issues for them for parking. If you look at the driveways of these, they're basically single car driveways. So you are, for those that have two cars that are residents, I'm sure a lot of these residents have some thoughts in regards to the necessity of parking there. We as a police department do see a byproduct when we start eliminating parking, then people who have two cars at their residence have to find somewhere else. And we end up with, transitioning to somewhere else. So they're gonna end up parking somewhere else and impacting other people, parking in front of fire hydrants, et cetera, just because they've got to get stalled. So just for thought in regards to decisions on this one.
The other thing is that our cars parking on both sides of the street, making it narrow. It does impede flow, but byproduct is it slows people down. So right now, the problem is the street's too narrow, but if you take away parking on one side, the problem might be that people are speeding. Maybe not on the street, but. And then people, I think whenever we bring up getting rid of parking, it's always a pretty heated topic because people use it.
Yeah,
That's why they're parking there is because they, for whatever reason, it's what's convenient.
Clarifying question, so, Jason, is the roadway itself wide enough to have emergency access when it's both cars are parked on both sides?
I haven't measured it and I've looked at that with Craig and we think it might be at the 36
Okay,
foot limit, but we'll check with the fire department. And I just want to look into it because this has been asked. It's been ran up the chain and they didn't put signs in for some reason and it's interesting that you've noticed people parked on the north side of Smith where there's more driveway drops, where on the other side, there's not too many. So that may be the issue is the folks on the north side really want those parking spots, so. No parking has been the hardest signs to install for me over the years. I mean, even in Old Town, it's in the ordinance before where they go. And we went to install them out years ago and those didn't even get installed. So they're tough.
so we'd say if the city's already agreed to the fact that there should have been signs and it's just been missed, then obviously it's something that we would come back with information and say. It's supposed to be there, and I guess we have to move that direction. That doesn't exist. There are definitely some pros and cons that will exist there. So, there's so many pros and cons. Like I said, speed can be affected when you all of a sudden now open that up. Same time, you can reduce accidents of people getting sideswiped on cars from having to do serpentine, kind of pulling into a driveway to let somebody come out. It's in kids playing and not being able to see both sides. There's from the police side, we get impacts that are positive for kids and but sometimes negative for the residents. So it's just like Jason said, for us too, it's tough and it increases our follow because these people will have to park somewhere. They have one spot to park or one car drivers.
So we just table this until next meeting. Anybody have any specific requests other than what Jason had mentioned that he was gonna do?
I don't need a motion. I'll define the smoking gun for the last rejection.
I have a question about the way they write about it, though. They're talking about 3 lanes. And but Smith isn't striped at all. They're not.
I think they're saying you can fit 3 cars wide if you have 2 cars parked. You can only have
They
one
would
lane
rather
in
have
between Parking, one
more
lane
people,
parking.
like more lanes and, okay.
Yeah,
But if we
wider
were to
road.
remove parking, we wouldn't add a lane there, right?
No, it just free it up. I've had similar thoughts of, why isn't it clear for 24 feet with parking on one side? So I think this is a logical request that we've received before. And surprising to me that the signs aren't up, but that means there's some sort of reason that the previous city manager didn't put the signs up, and maybe we just ask the current city manager what his thoughts are on in our city council. And perhaps we can get it done.
so Dan, is there a history where there's requests that's come in before? And how it's been resolved before, especially if Jason's identifying that there was a call on it?
Previous to the traffic safety.
It's not,
No, but this,
not trying to say it again.
okay,
I don't think we checked that. I wasn't checked.
I don't recall it.
Yeah, this is probably 2015, was the last, and the committee was formed in 2017.
2019.
Okay.
COVID throws all the time, so.
Which is the beauty of the committee, is creating the case file numbers. Forever.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, I'll move on to the next one. All right, so we got 2023-008, request for additional signage routing cyclists from Highway 99 on the Cedar Creek Trail. And a paved bike lane from Highway 99 onto Cedar Creek Pathway.
I did not like this one.
I live right near this intersection and, it's. Yeah, I can see how, if you're not familiar, or if you don't know, that's where you would access, but then it goes up to 12th Street is the next intersection that, you can get from 99 over into the neighborhood towards the city.
You're right. I think we could have had some guide signs that were installed with the trail project, and if we have some monies, we're gonna be doing some improvements on Alexander Lane to restore the sound panel fence that was there before. And I don't see why we can't, if there's money, to put in a couple guide signs that prevent folks or direct them onto the Cedar Creek Trail, especially bicyclists. We're actually putting some similar signs in the pedestrian bridge project that probably should have been included like that, but we had federal funds, so. We can address the signage, we can put a few things in there. And then add a paved bike lane from Highway 99 onto Cedar Creek Pathway. And there are no plans to connect the two right there. Meineke, the ramps is where we need to get the bikes going down towards the Cedar Creek corridor. Once we get the fence on Alexander installed, it'll be pretty crystal clear. You can't go through the big fence, so. That should resolve that until there's a giant undercrossing that now someone can get on their bike and go under the Cedar Creek undercrossing, but that's like 10 years out. Other than that, we might be able to add some signs up indicating you still have another option for 12 for Sherwood Boulevard to get back down into Old Town for bikes, but that would be my only recommendations of some additional guidance signs at Meineke for this, and then I'll reach out to each of these people that submit these complaints or comments and just kind of get their take on what we can or can't do and share with you, but what we talked about at the next meeting. So this is valid, this is full-on valid complaint where you're unable to, you're not guided, you're riding on your bike and you just aren't told that, hey, that pathway that you see there, you could have gotten on it 500 feet behind you.
So Jason, are you saying that there is money as far as in the budget for additional signage?
Not specifically allocated to it, but it's for enhancements and restoration of that visual corridor, landscaping, things that were missed with the Cedar Creek Trail project. I'm concerned that all the money is going to be eaten up by increasing costs for the fence project, so we may have to dip into the street signage fund, but we're doing that elsewhere for the trail to enhance that. So it's, just two or three signs through public works folks.
And I think this complaint was kind of twofold too, if I remember correctly, it was the signage was one, so I think like Jason's saying, that's a piece that we would support enhancing. I think the other piece was gravel and not a connectivity from 99 onto the trail. So I think it was a two-part submission. And so Jason, just to clarify, saying that part you're saying we probably wouldn't be doing some of that, because I think you say there's
Not anytime soon.
things going
Yeah.
on, and you're gonna be working on them redirecting. So just to clarify, two-part complaint. One part, we're saying, yeah, there's something to do. The other part would be, yeah, no.
I mean, it does kind of resolve, I'll talk to them, but a paved bike lane from Highway 99 onto Cedar Creek Pathway isn't in our plan in the immediate future. But that paved bike lane to get on there would be at Meineke at the ramps,
There you go.
and we'll sign them onto it, so that is the solution for now,
So different
right?
access spot.
That sound wall is going between Cedar Creek Trail and 99.
Actually, we hired your firm to help out with that.
Yeah, I'm curious where the gravel route, because right now it is asphalt from at Meineke, right, in 99. As if it would just be if they took 99 north and tried to get over to Cedar Creek, there's not another path. But
Right.
there might be some gravel
Far
right
out there. There's an undercrossing project that's like
Okay.
20 million that
Well, I-
put that in.
I think what they're saying is if you go north past the intersection, the path and the highway are like 10 feet apart with gravel between them. So it seems like you, and actually right now you
Go
can't
to mountain biking.
just go across the gravel and you're on the trail. I think that's what they're asking for, is that connection.
And so the wall will prohibit that. when-
Yeah, there'll be chain link fences there now at Smith, kind of where that comes out to Alexander. But it's gonna continue the chain link fence all the way up to the Meineke signal. And then from that chain link fence where there used to be kind of a acoustic panel sort of fence that the smaller, we're gonna be putting in a taller, not sound wall, but acoustic panel fence that's hopefully 8 feet tall behind between the cedar trees that continues all the way down past the ODOT yard into right where the wood fence is for the boardwalk system. So you won't even be able to physically get back into the trail corridor, which is kind of almost a separate request of when are you gonna have a nice connection over on the condos that goes back down to the regional trail.
So for Sabrina's notes and that, would it be fair to say that piece of the complaint about the gravel that you're talking about, it'll be fixed, it'll be addressed. In the statement.
Yeah, I think this comment will be satisfied with the additional line. And then once the fence is up, it'll be clear that this connection that he's talking about, or this person talking about, will be provided by a big giant $20 million undercrossing project that's gonna wipe out the highway for a while and raise it up, and put bridge structures and stuff there that. But they're still also going down towards Sherwood Boulevard. There's no real connection to the regional trail until you get back to the community center. So I'll walk them through the planned projects. Hopefully that should work.
Okay. All right. I think the signage makes it, all sense. Make a motion for our support.
Motion to install a few guide signs there.
Jason can't make motions. So.
I would agree. I move that we follow Jason's recommendations by installing guide signs and watching the problem resolve itself over time with that as the first step.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
thanks. Discussion. Okay, take a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. On to pending traffic safety requests. You all of these have feedback, you want me to go through each one individually, or we want to go? Sure, all right, we'll start with 2022-005, the request to lower speed limit. Add more lighting, sidewalks, bike lanes, and crosswalks on P Road. Several different requests associated with this.
Provide an update, a quick update on these. And I'll explain more how we can track the case files and not worry about them still sitting up on our list in a minute. But we've received great news today from ODOT. A monthly reminder popped up to check in on the speed studies, and we were able to get them to make some decisions on, they ended up splitting up the Edie Road request from the Elwood Road request again, even though they said they were combining them. And this one was approved today to lower it to 35 miles per hour. And just waiting for concurrence from the city manager. I'm sure they're not gonna say anything and then I'll just respond to ODOT and concur, the county will concur and then my contacts at the county, I will be back on Monday. I'll reach out to them, see if we can get those signs updated. Hopefully with other stuff they're doing for us on Hay Road. The ODOT said that the Elwood Road items would be completed by the end of the month, so that's a different item. The rest of the request, more lights, sidewalks, bike lane, and crosswalks is gonna be will be completed with a CIP project or a TSP project for the Edie Road improvements, which we have listed throughout our TSP and CIP and the county TDP project, so. I think that would resolve this completely.
So the 35 mph EV road, is that just in the Sherwood section or? the entire-
Just the third section between Elwerton and UNW. And as far as I know, the basic rule is where they're going, that was the response that I saw from ODOT County was outside the city, it's basic rule, 25 miles per hour.
On that road often, it's way beyond 25. When they put this, update the speed limit signs, is there? Think there's any opportunity to have speed feedback signs put in with the speed limit signs?
Probably a separate request, probably separate request, I agree.
Yeah, I'll fill out.
I think that's a good, I think it's a good idea. They'll have the required what orange flags out and everything just to indicate.
I think it's
that
a great thing.
the change.
I think we'll probably have another agenda item in the future about people speeding.
For that piece of room, please, our recommendation would be like wait time. So, yeah,
You guys will do some
the adjustment,
educational.
yeah, you're gonna have muscle memory that it's 45 and we need to get through that muscle memory down to 35 for an extended duration of time before I would say we're gonna get another beneficial study of.
I realized why they split the request on back. Was one was a 5 mph shift, which is an administrative decision. And the other one's 45 to 35. So that I think has to go and be approved by like the top dog at the state. So that's what they're.
So it's just to clarify, this is to 35 then you're saying they got approved?
So Jason, is there, I know it's part of the CIP as far as the development plans, are there actually, identifying as funding? As in with this calendar year, next calendar year?
the ED road.
Yeah,
I can't comment on that. I've seen the cost estimates that the county has and the funding, they talked about MISTIP, but there was some articles in the newspaper about how the MISTIP was. All the projects have increased by a lot of money, so it's harder to get the MISTIP funds allocated. So I don't know how and when that project will be funded. But it's worth.
but it's on the list.
It's on the list and it's top priority project for our elected officials. I know that for sure.
So, has the county provided us data on, have they taken speed readings for Eagle, that section, Elward?
Well, all of it was included in the speed study between 99W and Elbert. And that's what helped them complete the reduce to 35 miles per hour, but and then we'll keep monitoring it.
So I guess what I'm getting at is how many people, what percentage of people who drive that road are breaking the law or 5 miles over?
Currently?
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you. It's in the report.
is there a way of finding out?
Yeah, I can give you a copy of the report. Yeah,
Yeah, all right.
not a problem.
The good thing is that it's approved to go down to 35. So that'll be good.
This is eating.
Yeah, ED only and we're assuming Elbert's gonna get approved. It just was that 25 to 35. So, but maybe it has to go through additional approval.
Perfect. Don't need to go to your question. Police Department does run radar on the EV section and we have speeders on it, of course, it's like on any road, but nothing that's Nothing that's really out of the. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that one? All right, 2022-006 request to lower speed limit, install speed bumps on northbound, southbound Delaware. Kind of just talked about.
Yeah, if Delaware Road stuff's gonna get approved, we're putting pressure on ODOT to get that done by the end of the month, so we can then work our magic with the county and get the signs swapped out, including the Hayes Road school zone stuff by the county all at the same time before school starts on in 5 years. I still think there's a Hail Mary chance of doing this, so.
It's good to be optimistic.
And then I think we'll keep these. These are good information. These are gonna be dots, these case files, but there's also portions of this 22-006. Kind of dovetail into the striping on Elwood and not working. So I think we'll just kind of always have this here of helping us get, things improved out there.
How far north does the speed limit reduction go to?
Just the city, just between Elwood and Edie intersection to that highway both ways.
Okay.
And then we've had some inquiries about the stuff right outside of that area. And the county responded, it's just basic rule, we don't have monies to put up more 5 mile per hour signs and all areas right outside the city, but right outside the cities are where the problems are, so we can just keep on asking.
Okay, 2022-0. Parking concern on St. Charles Way to Pathway, requesting no parking signs in the area.
We anchored up where this one is, and this is further up St. Charles Way, because we were confused. We're doing a paving project on Sunset at St. Charles Way. And we're gonna check the parking signs there and make sure there's site distance issues, but this is further up on St. Charles Way where the school ball fields have a connecting pathway, and then it just comes out to the sidewalk. And there's no ramp there, so really there's no problem there by the state law. And I don't know if there's anything we can do. At first, I'm like, we need to go put no parking within 20 feet of each side of it, but then there's no ramp there, there's no crosswalk, there's nothing.
So and this was where it was in transition where I was just coming on, Bob was coming off, Jason was coming on. So you'll remember, I think that was like my first meeting like 11 months ago, and that was at that time. We voted on, or you all voted on that time for there to be no parking signage in front of the residents, right where this pathway comes out onto the road. So the one where I showed you guys the video, we had Officer Pierce driving and I was kneeling down by a vehicle, and the pathway takes right onto the road. So at that time, I think you guys had voted on it to ask for no parking for right there where the pathway comes onto the road, and to have a crosswalk striping to get across the road to where the sidewalk is. So that was the history on it. I don't know if that's allowed though, Jason, or.
Yeah, because there's no ramp there, and I'll get Bob's kind of interpretation of it, but without the ramp, there's no crosswalk, and therefore from the city's perspective, it's a school district connection to the public sidewalk, and that's it. My daughter, actually, when we were at a soccer game, wandered off at the same location and was starting to walk across the street, and at first I'm like, we need no parking signs and some sort of enhanced crosswalk, but now I look at it more and it's like, I just need a car park there.
The what?
The car parked right at the end of it, so my daughter didn't walk out into the street, so it's almost, I concluded that we need to have parking there because it isn't a crosswalk. But most, I would want a barricade that says no crosswalk or preventing anyone from wandering out into the street, and that's it. Because I think the no parking signs and there's no technical legal ramp or crosswalk there would almost be putting the city in a position of creating a problem where We just need somebody to be able to stop and not walk across the sidewalk. Kind of my thought.
At the path though, it looks like it's like there's not a curb though, so like if you were in a mobility device, you can.
Yeah, it is it's the old ODOT mountable curb driveway detail that Mountain Park has where it's just an angled, so.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, it's still technically not a curb ramp though, where it depresses down and has domes. But I'm open to just putting this one back on the radar screen because, you know, I've had my own personal issues, with people coming across the street, so it was definitely a concern of mine with that there.
and then on the other side, there's a path, a receiving path too. So it's.
That's the other item, is there is a sidewalk on both sides too. This might be one I'd probably bounce off a traffic engineer friend or something that just only deals with stuff like this. These are kind of interesting items. I mean, it's more of a property owner liability issue, I would assume. Running off the property, I don't know if the city owns that easement or whatnot, but that's just my interpretation was no parking signs enhance it at first, and now I would just wish there was a van there parked in the way to prevent my daughter from running out into the street.
So if you're all okay with it, even though we kind of had a solution for this some time ago.
I don't think I
I
could
think
put that
Jason's info is really good. If we could maybe just relook at it again, get back to you.
I think where the public comment came from, right?
He was,
He
It's legit.
Yeah,
yeah, he was the first one to come.
I didn't even know it was there until my daughter started walking down the pathway. And I'm wondering why I didn't enter the park through that direction from.
City of Sherwood owned tract. Both sides.
Sorry.
This one.
Terminology.
There you go.
This tract, this tract are both city owned.
Okay.
They're not right of way though.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
We'll let you know next month. We need to redo your motion.
So next one is 2023-001 and 001.1. Concern regarding short high school parking lot traffic and paved road. Residents request additional traffic measures.
So we continue to really have a lot of struggle with having the school district connect with us on this one. Finally was able to get a response back this week after, as we know, multiple months of waiting for some movement on this. The information from school district is that they actually are trying to work a solution. I don't know what that solution is. That hasn't been advised to us. So we were asking them for what their solution is. As you know, in 3-4 months ago, we had provided the solutions that we discussed here as options. And so our communication to them now is what are your solutions? Are they different than ours? And I think they're having some discussions with fire department in regards to some fire regulation rules, but we're unaware of what those are as well. So we're just still kind of struggling to get communication as to what their thoughts are and where they're at. So apologies, but that's where we're at.
Anybody have any questions?
I kind of have update on that a little bit here with the county, Stowe County right away hasn't been transferred, but once we get the Elworth Road speed zone approved and put the request in for the county to come out and swap out those signs, I think they'll do this, the 25 mile per hour to the school zone signs on Haid because they all have the same warning flags that we're gonna have to put up for the 60-day period in the state law. And so they'll do it all at once and put all the flags up and Hail Mary chance of before your first day of dropping kids off at school, but. Yeah,
Hate speed could be reduced.
yeah, it's just only entering school or at least enforceable. And then I'm gonna see if our public works folks can still get those no parking and standing signs installed on the south side on the strap to the poles. And then other than that, I think the school district's gonna kind of just wait and see what happens with the Ped Bridge for changing the west drive aisle to a through movement, and looking at the traffic studies, just to remind us that was assumed that that would open up when the whole Sherwood West area developed later on.
Okay, we'll move on to 23-003, requesting speed limit signs, temporary speed trailer, temporary speed radar signs to be installed on Pine Street between Division and Sunset.
I think we have probably good news on this, but I'll let you give that, but we continue from the police side to monitor that for speed. We're continuing to work that. We're seeing improvement on that. We also had the speed cart, speed sign out there. To advise so that stuff is continued periodically at that location. And then your good news.
Yeah, the two speed limit signs, I'm hoping if there's inventory, we'll get swapped out hopefully tomorrow or next week. I let our operator, our utility manager know that we could use fully compliant signs if we needed to interim before, but there's a chance they may need to order them retro reflective, but it's just 25-mile-per-hour speed limit sign, so it might not have the speed limit 25 that matches. We might use an older sign until that arrives, but that's on the top of their list to get done. The stop bars, I put in a request to have those move closer on Division Street, so when you're pulling up, you'll actually see the cars from further away to increase visibility. So I'm hoping that gets done soon. They're out doing some road maintenance work, so that should get done. Included a no parking sign down further closer to Sunset that will have to go to the city manager. When you're coming off of Sunset onto Pine, there's some parking issues on the right side there that we're hoping to get maybe one sign with the right arrow to alleviate concerns there, and then an additional warning sign down on Pine Street to help with the left turning cars up in the park that might not be seen and head-on collisions there. And just if the city manager supports that one, we'll probably do that as well. So these are all submitted and now in the queue to get done and completed, which from our perspective is good. It's good news.
So probably about 1 more month and we'll have this month.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No? All right,
Give you an update on the item D two here. If you're ready.
yeah, we want to have pending city projects.
So I'm happy that I discussed this with our GIS staff, because what we're gonna do here is not tax a bunch of extra work on us, is take the list that we have for the case files, import that into our GIS and create points in our GIS that last forever. And really, we're kind of seeing this data as similar to traffic safety accident data, but really the data we're going to use to update our bicycle and pedestrian action plan with the PSP. So I don't really see the dots ever disappearing. I mean, they're kind of like civil rights complaints and ADA stuff that need to sit there forever. So I'm kind of happy that we didn't go make a map, which is going to be a layer in GIS using what we already have. But I hope at the next meeting, I'll have the ability to show you where the dots show up in relation to Seventh Avenue and all the stuff we just talked about. And then we'll have our CIP shape files that we can overlay and see which projects are going to get completed without creating a bunch of extra work. So at first I was like, I'm going to make you a list with do it all in GIS myself. And, you know, every day at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't have time to do that. So this is going to be pretty sweet. We're also doing our ADA transition plan, which is going to mandate, I believe, a civil rights rule. So when you have complaints, the city has to keep track of that stuff. So I was waiting to get an update on the transition plan from our public works director, but hopefully can provide an update on that next month. But really, it's just dots that we're going to use, and those are the comments and public involvement that we need to get projects in the TSP. So a lot more clarity from my perspective on the work we're doing. I think handling these case files and keeping track of them is really the data that we need to make a good TSP, so.
Great, thanks.
I had a question. You mentioned the pet bike plan. Is there update or a
We're
plan?
gonna start the TSP next July 3rd. And my thought was that this would serve as the basis of like a technical advisory committee for the bike and pet plan specifically, which seems like that's what we're talking about all the time. Anyway, so we do the TSP updates. We're supposed to do them every 4 years, but every 5 years. So we'll just keep our plan refreshed and then dump that into the TSP and have all these public involvement points tracked along the way. We'll be a step ahead of the game. So more comments are better, I think now. Once I kind of looked at this, I'm like, our jobs to get points. And, you know, and take the case files and keep track of them. And really not to make sure they get resolved. It's just organized and then everybody's voice heard, so. It was helpful.
All right, well, thanks for the update. We'll move on to committee comments. Anybody have anything non-agenda?
I do, but I'm not part of the committee. So, I just wanted to give everyone an update in regards to the Safe Routes to School program. So, planning staff did meet with the school district. And so just because the levy was approved in regards to funding, that opened up the opportunity to work with the school district in regards to the Safe Routes to School program. Our first step is getting resolutions in regards to the program and acknowledging it and the partnership that we're going to have. So I do know the school district is trying to have their resolution in their August 16th board. And then we're going to have a similar resolution at our probably the first meeting in September in front of council. So that's a really great step because it's just an acknowledgement in regards to the Safe Routes to School, but also it's the right step towards the partnership in regards to trying to implement. And we'll start slowly again. We started 3 years ago before COVID, and then everything kind of just stopped. So now we're going to retry doing some encouragement, walk and back to school days, that aspect of it, and then build the program out from there as far as doing Safe Routes to School action plans at very specific elementary schools, probably the following year. So really happy that that's moving forward again. And I invite anyone whoever wants to testify at that meeting as far as since you guys are traffic safety committee, in favor of it, even though it's probably going to be there's not going to be a hearing, it's a resolution in order. So it's probably part of the consent agenda, but it's always great to have some voices from outside of the Safe Routes to School coordinator.
So just to clarify, what you're leading to, you were inferring was eventually you're going to establish pedestrian bike improvement projects that you would apply for grants.
Ultimately, yes. So when we work with specific elementary schools, we have to do a walk audit, and we also identify transportation needs in regards to within their walking shed, and that identify those needs kind of we generate a report, then we can coincide it with the capital improvement plan. And then ultimately maybe partnering with the school district in regards to the local match. There's always monies involved in regards to getting these grants, but things like that. So this is just the beginning in regards to that relationship.
Right?
And a question too, so with the levy being approved, it had funding earmarked then for the program?
No, it's
Oh.
just that They would have not even considered it if they were gonna be, laying off staff.
Okay.
So this just allows the opportunity to continue on as is. So, yeah, it would have been a hurdle if we wanted to put this program on and with decreasing staff if the levy did.
Enjoy on the safe routes to school, the Sherwood was, if I recall, I don't know the acronyms or anything, but we weren't critical. We didn't have the demographics to be like, to get special, like priority funding. Is that right? And how close were we on?
So, I mean, everybody is entitled to a funding, but there's an equity lens in regards to where they prioritize. And unfortunate, I mean, it's fortunate that we don't have the demographics in regards to free and reduced lunch students. So without the demographics, there's typically a 40% local match as far as the dollars.
Were we close on the demographics? Because when you told me that, I filled out my
No,
census
it's-
directly to my.
It's like 20%.
My-
There has, the Title I, Hawksview is close. Hawksview has the most Title I students, but they're only at 12%, and the minimum that they're saying is 20%. As far as to be able to qualify as that equity lens. So we have some students, but not enough. Yeah, which makes it really difficult when, you know, a project may be $400,000 and we're contributing 40%. But at least we'll definitely start with some programming and education information, just so that, you know, walking to school, you know, there's always definitely, it's not just all about capital improvements. There's, you know, exercise, physical activity, all these other benefits to be, you know, walking and biking to school. But I'll keep you guys informed as the project, as the project progresses and see, because sometimes we do look for volunteers in regards to those encouragement days, walking by the school days, just giving out badges and goodies. So it's always helpful to have a lot of hands on deck.
Thanks.
One last thing I have, just FYI, for anyone that may be online listening, we did have an additional submission that came in, but it came in just too quick to kind of process and really get in front of you. So for anyone that may be online or whatever, that complaint has not been forgotten about. It'll just be presented next meeting, so to speak.
At the Villa Road. I was gonna give
Yes, it
contacts
is.
to that live on Villa Road, reach out to them.
So just, you know, we have one that's out there. It's just. I could get it turned around quickly.
I was curious if there's any update on the head bridge. Still on track for advertising this fall or something?
Yeah, in September, wrapping up bid documents now. Have contracts lined up for construction managers and everything, so we're on pace to go out for bid in September and keep our fingers crossed in October for good bid prices. Tentatively lined up to October 17th award at City Council or the URA board, so full speed ahead.
And the planning commission heard it in
Yeah.
regards to amending our TSP to include it. That was last week. So that with some minor tweaks, it's gonna go to city council. When is that date, Jason?
August, the first and second meeting in August is when we'll do the reading for that, and that was a cleanup exercise. I think the initial plan was to be doing the TSP update starting a year and a half ago. And that the update would have included the head bridge, but then the project got pushed out, and when we went and did our RTP update with Metro, we noticed the project wasn't in there, so it was more of a cleanup exercise to get the project and apply the funding and make sure nobody can kind of, you know, object to the project, so.
It formalizes it
Yeah.
being placed in our transportation system.
Is that an 18-month construction, you think about?
Yeah. I'm hoping the bid, we'll see on the bid pricing. I'm hoping we, if we're lucky, come in right at the $12 million number that somebody threw out for the beverage for, and we'll say that was the low bid price, not the fully loaded price. So keep your fingers crossed.
Okay, anybody else have any comments?
There's flyers, or there's walked in, but National Night Out is this Tuesday. There's gonna be hot dogs and an ice cream truck there, it's my understanding. So come on out and meet our Sherwood Police Department officers and have fun, bring your kids.
I think an ice cream vendor too's coming. So,
Jason, sorry, one last question. The CIP list, I know when Erica was still here, we gave some feedback or she had talked with, is that the CIP update, like the project list, is that?
Yeah, I can get a copy of the project list. Shared or even post it online and just send a link to it. I think the one projects you're interested in were the paving projects.
Mhm.
And we do have paving project for fall, tentatively scheduled for Sunset Boulevard, most of Sunset, in front of Archery Glen. Down closer to forget the name of there, the one west of St. Charles. And then Meineke roundabouts. And then that small section of Pembroke between Sunset and Middleton Road. And we threw in a sidewalk crosswalk, 2 curb ramps of that one, which is great for that location. Because we typically don't do the sidewalks and ramps upgrades with our paving projects unless they're directly impacted, and this was close. So, and that was one of the locations identified and traffic safety committee case file. So stuff coming, and then I'll give you an update if we any of that stuff's going to be delayed, but it's all construction for paving, which sometimes creates problems because we want to do it in the middle of the summer, but that's just when our resources could be allocated to it.
With that, we will adjourn. Thank you. So one.
Freedom.